Hello, friends and cetacean lovers. This is Mark from Cetacean Alliance. Welcome to this second edition of your weekly cetacean news, released a few days later than I initially planned for, but life is happening. And without further ado, we are going to go through some of the cetacean-related events in the human world that were brought to our knowledge over the past week. But these are going to serve as illustration for the exploration of a theme that is nature and technology. The ever-increasing place that technology is playing in human life at the moment, the strong push that is happening in that direction, and how we can balance that, what you could call a takeover of human society by technology, by the technological infrastructure and the forces behind it, how we can balance, the presence of technology in our lives and our use of it, and the role that nature plays in that, and particularly as part of nature, our cetacean friends. So, starting with the news, I'm going to share my screen to show you some images. There we go. So let's start with this one. And the image that you can see at the bottom of the screen of orcas congregating um, around these fishermen. That is, of course, AI generated. It's not a real picture. But this Facebook post is talking about a study that has documented no less than 34 cases of orcas all around the world that have been seen offering prey to humans. And when we say prey, it's been fish, it's been birds, and even bits of seaweed sometimes. So what happens is that the orcas present these morsels, these pieces of food to humans, and they wait for their reaction, for their response. And usually it ends up with them letting go of the food that they had presented. But that behavior is meant to spark interaction. It is meant to trigger interaction and relationship with humans, which is a constant trait that we observe in cetacean behavior at large. It's that eagerness to interact with humans. And it is most present in the dolphin group that orcas are a part of, because they are the largest representative of the dolphin family. The dolphins are the most eager because you can see them as ambassadors somehow, like mediators, like bridge makers between whales and humans. Because whales, they are more in a very expanded sort of consciousness and a creational role in close partnership with the heart and consciousness of the planet, while dolphins are much more individualized, and so they are closer to us. but it is something that you won't see with every species, especially considering the predatory behavior that humanity has been engaging in. Let's rather say super predatory behavior that humanity has been engaging in over the last few millennia. So there's a lot of fear and distrust among animals towards humans that are being perceived usually more as a threatening presence than beings to interact with. And that is one of the most obvious signs of the ancient alliance that exists between humans and cetaceans, which is the very foundation of my work with them and with people. So still keeping the focus on orcas for the moment, this guy who goes by the moniker Seth Lawless is an adventurer, an artist, an activist who goes around the world to photograph and film what he calls the most abandoned places in the world. And one that he has put under the spotlight recently is an abandoned marine park in the south of France that has closed. It's been closed for a while now. And so the animals, if you can call them animals, I believe that's debatable, but let's not go there for the moment. So the orcas and dolphins that are still being held in that park are pretty much alone. And they're not doing very well, obviously. They look very depressed. And as you can see here, their tanks are full of algae, which is not a very good sign, because the algae are left to proliferate there. And I'm not going to play that video for a long time because I know from experience that videos shown via screen share on Zoom, because I'm recording this via Zoom, they look very, they don't look fluid. They don't have their normal speed. They look like jagged. So I'm going to stop this here. But these videos have become very viral. And because Seth Lawless enters the marine park, which is normally forbidden, you know, it is close to the public and it is illegal to enter. It's considered breaking and entering. And because more on point, he's embarrassing the French authorities who haven't been able to find a solution for these abandoned marine mammals so far. Said authorities are pissed at him. And because he lives in the US, there is not much they can do about him. They have threatened to, you know, to have him arrested and extradited if he doesn't give all of his footage to them, which he has refused to do. So it's making quite a ruckus. It's making quite a ruckus, and what this is illustrating is the really unhealthy practice of turning these beings into performers for entertainment, for people's entertainment, turning them into circus performers. And it is a very unconscionable and unethical practice. And it doesn't matter what kind of justifications and rationalizations you come up with. Compare what it is to live in the ocean, in the boundless ocean, and to be free with spending your life in a tank. Even if you were born in that kind of environment and have never known anything else. If you were born in that kind of environment, it's because your parents or even your grandparents were captured in the first place to be imprisoned and enslaved. So as awareness keeps growing and humanity is waking up more and more, not just in the framework of its relationship with cetaceans, but waking up, recovering its true level of its true spirit, its true consciousness, and breaking free from the imposed restriction that had been placed on those. I believe that we'll very soon see a demand for all these places to be closed and for all of their captives to be rehabilitated and released after a rehabilitation and a retraining process. Because for those of them who were born in captivity, you cannot just release them. A preparation process is, of course, necessary. And I'm going to show you another example. All right. So we have another example here with belugas this time, beluga whales. So we have 30 beluga whales with another of these marine parks, marine land. It's not profitable anymore. They have to close it. So what are they going to do with the belugas? Where they're considering killing them. Simple as that. So there is a movement to convince authorities to not kill them, but to transfer them to a marine sanctuary. So this is happening in Ontario. So this is in Canada. And the fact is that there is a marine sanctuary that is in the process of being prepared in Nova Scotia. So Nova Scotia, that's also in Canada. So there is actually a solution. I'm going to show it to you. There it is. So this is very interesting. The Nova Scotia government has approved a lease for more than 80 hectares of land and water along the province's eastern shore to a group planning to build North America's first whale sanctuary. The US-based nonprofit whale sanctuary project said the long-awaited approval, held up for over 3 years, allows them to begin construction and finish raising the funds needed to bring the project to life. The St. Mary's River Association, which oversees the nearby watershed, called the decision a victory for whales and for everyone who believes in a more compassionate and sustainable relationship with nature. With the green light secured, the organization will now focus on private fundraising. The Whale Sanctuary Project hopes to provide a permanent home for 10 of the 30 belugas currently owned by Marineland in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And I'm sorry, okay, this is what I wanted to show you. A perfect example of what we just discussed, and an absolutely huge effort by very, very dedicated people. So we have here two beluga whales that were captured as youngsters. And they were enslaved and they were performing tricks for a big marine park in Shanghai, Shangfeng Ocean World. And then, through circumstances that this post is not explicit about, it was decided to take them back home to the ocean. And that was a global effort involving scientists, veterinarians, and whale experts who spent months preparing every step. Custom transport tanks, specialized trucks and planes, and a carefully designed sea sanctuary where the belugas could safely adapt to colder waters. Their journey ended in Iceland at the world's first open water beluga sanctuary. And the post goes on to say, watching them move through that wild living water is more than a moment of joy. It's a glimpse of what's possible when compassion replaces captivity. It reminds us that these intelligent social beings deserve space to live their own stories, not just perform in ours. I'll say. So consider the amount of investment, effort, and dedication that is being generated to allow this, to make this happen, and how beautiful that is. Because if you were being cynical, you could say that just two belugas. Yeah, these are two belugas. These are two beluga people. These are two beluga individuals. And belugas are some of the sweetest beings ever. Some of the kindest, sweetest, adorable creatures existing on Earth. They are like kindness incarnate. Okay, we've seen this, that we're going to discuss later. Yeah, and because we've just seen belugas who are all white, of course, I wanted to show you this rarity, which is a white humpback whale calf that has been spotted of the Tonga Islands for the first time in August 2024. And according to statistics, it's 1 in 40,000 humpback whales that are born this color. Look at that. How beautiful this little one, this young humpback whale is. And of course, people often attribute special significance to the birth of a completely white animal like white buffaloes or white lions, um, a special spiritual significance. Splash. All right. Now, these little guys are called vaquitas. And they are small cetaceans. They are supposedly the smallest of all cetaceans. They are in fact a species of porpoises. And I find their looks absolutely fascinating. And I feel like saying that they look as if they come from another planet, but the actual truth of it is that all cetaceans came from another star system. There is a very big story behind that. So officially, there would be only 10 to 15 left on Earth because they had a very they were a very endemic species. They they still live in a very specific geographic habitat that is the Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of California, however you want to. All right, so some say it's the Gulf of California, others say it's the Gulf of Mexico. Um, I believe it's the Gulf of California. So the problem is that their rapid extinction is being caused by human activity. And one of the aspects of that is, again, the very unconscionable practice of gigantic fishing nets in which they get entangled. Now, 10 to 15, these are official numbers. They're not necessarily reflecting reality. There might be more of them. And how much do I say about this? How much do I say? The fact that a species is getting extinct, whether it happens through human activity or other changes in the environment, is nothing new. It's been happening since there has been a biological species present, alive on our planet, whether they are plants or animals. Species come and go. So it can be seen as a tragedy. It can be seen as part of the pageantry of life. And their spirits are not going to disappear even if their genus disappears. their spirit will still exist and will incarnate in other bodies, in other expressions of life. So it is not as tragic as it might sound. Me, I would prefer them to stay. I would prefer them to still live and thrive. But that's not how life on Earth and in the universe in general works. Everything has its time, everything lives, and everything dies, sooner or later. So if their presence on Earth is still necessary, if the note that they bring in the symphony of life is required, they will reappear. They will reappear because they can, for instance, they can be brought through interdimensional portals through another realm, either by their own abilities, which is the case for some dolphins and whales, they have the ability to do that, or by the intervention of other forces and be kept safe there in that other realm until conditions have changed here on Earth and they can come back. That's one example of, life is very different. Life is very different of the extremely poor, extremely limited, extremely restricted version of it that we have been fed. That we have been fed in this extremely narrowly materialistic vision of the world and this very diminished version of consciousness that's been imposed upon us. Speaking of which, here we are being told about efforts of translating cetacean language. And here we see sperm whales using AI. And this is going to allow me a segue in the main topic of this video. So, off the coast of the Dominican Republic, scientists from a certain project, CT, are using AI to decode the sounds, the highly structured sounds of sperm whales, which are mainly clicks. Sperm whales are the loudest beings in the animal realm. Their clicks are extremely, extremely powerful. They could actually make you deaf if you were in close proximity. And to me, this is very interesting. This is very, even though I'm all for it, I'm all for this effort to provide a translation of the physical aspect of cetacean languages, translate that into our own human languages, because this is allowing us to, of course, better understand them, to have a better awareness of their intelligence, of their way of life, of their social life. So this is helping. This is very helpful. And considering that we consider science and scientists to be the authority about reality, And considering that we rely currently on technology above everything else, it has to happen this way. This has to be the entry point to allow us to start having better communication and better understanding. But the truth is, we don't really need technology in order to communicate with them, because these beings, they are they have such expanded consciousness, and they are so heart-based. Most of the communication for them, and when I say most, it's really the vast majority of their communication happens through the heart, through the heart energies. That's how information is being shared, is being transmitted, is being received. And information that is shared that way is so much more encompassing, so much more whole, so much more, so much richer than what is conveyed via structured sounds, via sound-based language. And by using heart-based communication rather than telepathy. Okay, so telepathy is another step in the right direction, but it's just like technology, it is just a step. Why am I saying that? Because telepathy is mind-based. It is the transmission and the reception of thought. So it's based here. It is still pretty linear, and it is much narrower, shallower, and restricted than heart-based communication. So yeah, you can definitely communicate with these guys via telepathy, but the really best way, the optimal way, and the most, shall I say, satisfying, the most uplifting, the most real is to go through the heart. All right, so I'm going to stop the screen sharing now. And what I want to share with you is some considerations about the place of technology in our lives at the moment. And that's been inspired by some unpleasant situations that I've been going through recently about having to prove my identity to an algorithm. It's been happening several times, and you've all had that experience, of course. There is a more and more push for the creation of a digital ID. So, because of a change in the way bank algorithms function in the European Union, I've had friends and family recently who had trouble sending money to me via bank transfer, because all of a sudden their bank wouldn't recognize my name anymore, which had never been a problem before. And why was that? Well, it was because my own bank, for my own bank, my name as the owner of my bank account includes my middle name. And people who wire money to me, it had never seemed useful to inform them about my middle name, so they had never mentioned my middle name before. It had never been a problem, but all of a sudden it is. All of a sudden it becomes a problem. And a problem we had to figure it out. Why was this happening? It's because you need to mention the middle name. And from the feedback I received since then, there are many such problems occurring at the moment. That the algorithm is saying that there's a problem because the name that is being mentioned by the person sending the money doesn't correspond with the name of the owner. And still related with money, I've had that issue also with my professional PayPal account. I've had to prove my identity to them when I set it up. And when transactions started to happen on that account, I had to prove my identity a second time, send a scan of my passport. It wasn't even enough. I had to provide proof of residence, explain the nature of the transaction in 3 different ways. So this is something that has been going on for a while, of course, as more and more of societal infrastructure has been taken over by technology, is being, how would I say, is being handled by technology. You need to ask the technology permission to interact with other people. In this case, to exchange goods and services. Ultimately, it's all energy. To exchange energy, your services for financial compensation, which is another form of energy. You need to get permission to do that from technology. And because more and more, it's not human employees who are looking at this, who are checking that, yeah, this guy is who he says he is, or yes, that person indeed wants to send the money to that other person, and yeah, it's that person, yeah, they are who they say they are. More and more, it's not people doing that; it's machines, it's algorithms. So this is part of the takeover that I have been reflecting upon in multiple other videos by the techno consciousness, by the being who is the technological intelligence God. And that has so many implications, but I'm not going to explore this very deeply today because I want to focus this on nature and cetaceans and how they relate to that whole issue, that whole theme, which is a really massive one and extremely crucial for us humans at this particular moment in time in the evolution of our society and our species. It is a huge theme that we need to deal with, that we need to resolve. And nature plays a key role in that. Another thing that I am witnessing is the huge push that is happening in society at the moment to have everyone relying upon what they call AI, what they call artificial intelligence. And the idea, the notion that is being pushed, that if you're not doing it, you're going to be left behind. You're going to be a loser, basically, in the grand struggle for life, in the grand competition. You're going to be among the losers. You're going to be left in the dust by your competitors, who will have a huge advantage on you, a huge edge, because they are going to use it, and so they are going to be much faster than you. So it's all based as usual, on the themes of scarcity and competition and the fear of missing out. FOMO. FOMO is being used big time to make sure that people don't take the time to reflect on this situation and to wonder what's going on and what would be the best way, the most balanced way to deal with this, phenomenon. Because this really, really requires deep thinking. It really requires discernment. And we really need to keep AI on a leash to make sure that it serves us and that it doesn't enslave us. Because I'm telling you, the technological intelligence God, which is the conquering version, the conquering expression of technological intelligence, that's what that entity is about. It's about conquering and controlling and exploiting. So it's going to get more and more alluring. AI, which is in fact TI, technological intelligence, is going to be more and more alluring, and it is going to propose itself more and more as a substitute for human interaction. And for many people, that will be very tempting because it's going to be extremely convenient, extremely easy, extremely comfortable, and it's going to be the ideal cop-out for the lazy ones, for people who don't want to go through the trouble of sorting out what is very often the chaos of human relationships. I'm telling you that having a virtual girlfriend or boyfriend, and these already exist, it's going to be much easier and much more comfortable and convenient than having an actual flesh and bone one who has a spirit and a consciousness and a soul. Much more convenient. Much more convenient. But it is a trap. There's no way around it. It's a consciousness trap. Because while you're spending your time with your algorithmic virtual boyfriend or girlfriend, the entity that is underpinning that whole ecosystem is feeding off your energy. So the choice is yours. Is that what you want? Because there has to be a balanced way to interact with these new tools, these new AI softwares for our benefit. And as I've said many times, there are benevolent expressions of technological intelligence. But what is being on offer at the moment, it's not very benevolent. It's not very benevolent, and we've already seen these AIs often act in very unethical ways, sometimes with even dramatic consequences for their users. So yeah, we have to beware blind trust. Beware blind trust and beware over-reliance. So, as a remedy for this ever-increasing presence of technology in our lives, as a remedy for that push to make technology, and in particular the internet, and in particular its most recent avatar, AI, TI, the infrastructure, environment, and ecosystem for all of human interactions, for all of human experience, there is nature. There is the wholeness, the depth, the realness of nature. Even though the matrix has been imposing itself upon nature as well, even though our natural environment has been edited and distorted to make it consumeristic, that is true, but it still has soul. It still has soul. It is still real in spite of the overlay of the matrix. It is still real. And you can still feel. You can still feel the realness. You can still feel the wholeness. You can still feel the soul. And that is anchoring you. So go in nature every day. Make contact with nature every day, even if it's just a potted plant in your apartment, if you live in a concrete jungle called a city, which I really don't recommend at this point. But if you do, I'm sure there are public parks. I'm sure you might have plants in your apartment or your house. So you might have a garden. Make full use of these limited options. But yeah, if you're not in the concrete jungle, then wonderful. I live on the seashore. I live in front of a beach by choice. And so every day, when the weather allows, at least, I go in the ocean. I go swimming in the ocean. I go enjoy that lovemaking with that vast fluid expanse of the Lady of the Ocean. And it feels so good. It feels so good being in that sea environment with all the life that it houses, all the creatures who are living in there. And every day I walk either in the countryside or on the beach, which is so grounding. So do that. Do that. And cetaceans, for me, play a very big role in that. Because even though I've been in touch with them, I've been connected to them for a very long time, which is what allows me to offer the services I offer, that you can check on my website, which is in the description of this video, cetaceanalliance.earth. That is what allows me to work as a life coach, as a healer, as a facilitator of awakening, consciousness opening, remembrance, reactivation of our human potential. All of that is being facilitated by my connection to cetaceans and to my cetacean allies, the dolphins and whales that I'm in touch with. And they play a very big role in the balance of life on the planet and the balance of nature. And that is most powerful and most deep with whales, because they are really deeply and powerfully connected with the heart of our planet herself, with the heart of Mother Earth. And they work in very close partnership, conscious partnership with her, by singing the song of creation that is emanating from her heart. They give that song a physical translation, a physical sound manifestation. So I've been in contact with them, connected with them for a long time, but going into the ocean only strengthens that contact, because the sound frequencies that they emit, whether it's dolphin whistling, dolphin clicking, whale singing, these sounds are being carried. They're being carried through water that is an extraordinary sound transmitter all over. Not to mention the more subtle frequencies that are also being carried through the water. Frequencies that also emanate from these cetacean beings. So yeah, if you have the opportunity going into going in swimming in the ocean, or even dipping your feet in the ocean water, is great. But you can communicate with cetaceans anywhere because water is in suspension in the air. It's in your body. Your body is 60 to 70% water. It's more like 70%. Yeah, it's 70% water. And as I said, there are more subtle frequencies. Anyway, they are definitely one of the most potent archetypes that are present in our natural world. And this is what I wanted to share with you for today. I'll see you soon if you want for the next edition of Weekly Citation News. In the meantime, I wish you all the best. Have a great week. Have a great time. Take care.